So, I would like to say a couple of things before this next interview with a young man named Tyler, who is a first year graduate student at the University of Florida, I think. Um, and it felt a little bit bad at the end of my interview and after my interview. Felt like maybe I had been a little bit mean. I'm not sure what I think about it. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know whether I think that I was mean, and I also don't know whether that's a problem. Um, these people are give up their time for my content. I mean, I'm not making any money off of it, of course, but I guess theoretically one day I could. Um, and that's not the point. The point is that you know, they're giving me their time and stuff, and so I should, be nice. They shouldn't feel punished for giving me their time. I hear that. On the other hand, um, I don't know. If I tell you I'm going to do an interview on the brain, and you study the brain, and you don't realize that you're a brain, and because that's like what makes the brain so amazing. It's the only thing in the universe that can study itself, that we know of. Um, I was gonna make a point that if agree to do an interview about the brain, you are signing up for the risk that you might look silly. It's a hard concept. Um, and then also, what project am I doing if when I'm talking to someone who sort of doesn't see that they're a brain, even though, or who is saying, that they don't see that they're a brain, even though saying seeing is all brain stuff. Um, what am I doing if I'm not sort of calling that out and letting it be clear um, that that's a bit wild? Um, you know what I'll do? I'll just have a version of that of the interview with this intro. I'll just publish it twice. Um, because there's more I want to say. Oh, another thing I want to say is that right before this interview, my partner, my romantic, my work, my partner, told me that she wasn't gonna live anywhere outside of Illinois ever. Um, so I was also a little bit, and I think I want to blame sort of my feelings about that for if I was a little bit abrupt or critical or not the sweetest, gentlest version of myself in this interview. Also, there might be some envy. I didn't even finish college, and so to be talking to people that have their PhD in neuroscience or that are working towards their advanced degree in neuroscience, and they're talking to me about a soul or they're talking about immaterial existence. Um, and it's like, dang, because I feel like an imposter, not having my bachelor's and continuing to work on these questions and topics. And uh, and I bet they don't. And I'm a bit envious of that. Um, and then lastly, I did not expect this. Um, I did not expect. I thought that I would be able to kind of compare the interviews with the public to the interviews with the professionals, and that there would be a difference. um, and I'm a little bit underwhelmed by that difference. Um, yeah. So what we've got an upcoming interview with a Notre Dame professor. Now you're gonna see, what I want you to see. Um, he's one of the only people I had because we went out for a drink after he gave a talk in Chicago, and he was like, yes, yes, I'm a brain. He talked about when he did an fMRI and was able to see himself for the first time. He might have said to see my brain, but also he's like and realize, wow, that is me, you know. And yeah, and maybe discouraging is not the right word. It feels a bit discouraging, but maybe it's not the right word. It's almost even encouraging. It's like, wow, look how much work there's to do. Awesome, you know? Um, but it just makes me feel like, damn, I'm not gonna see the fruits in my lifetime, bro. And that's not true. If it depends on what I define as some fruits, and if the fruits is to just some of the people around me understanding that they're a brain and and learning about that brain and the errors that we make and then making adjustments accordingly, or even just that awareness causing, because that information exists in the system, right, when it's learned, and it's the system that produces behavior. So that information is going to have an effect on the system. It might not have, the effect that we might desire, but it will have an effect on something. That information is neural connections, right? So not every pathway that leads to behavior is going to include those connections or is going to be affected by, you know, those networks, but I hope we can hope, bro. Um, One last thing, and this is longer than the interview was. One last thing is it reminds me of in the book on being certain by Robert Burton. And I have videos about that in the playlist called like Burton, but spelled B, and then the rest of the spelling is like certain. Burton, you understand? Um, in his book on being certain, he talks about how he tells his students, every year about split brain research, which I think happened like the 80s, maybe even the 70s, bro. 60s, bro. I was gonna say that. I was like, that's crazy. 67 and 75, Gazaniga or Gazaniga, whatever, did this research. And split brain research should shake you to your core, but we're not reasonable. That's not how we function. I mean, that's not how we're set up. But a reasonable being would be shaken to its core to learn about split brain research, to learn that when you sever the corpus callosum, the 200 million axons connecting the two hemispheres, you'll see in experiments two different consciousnesses coexisting in one skull. I mean that's as clear as it gets, bro. Because the brain's so connected, it looks like a singular consciousness, right? It still isn't, but it's really hard to see how or when it isn't or whatever to see that it isn't. But then you make it so that the two hemispheres are not connected. Holy shit, you've got, information only existing in like one of the cells. You have two cells, and you have one self that just doesn't know what the other self in the same body knows. And whenever he tells his students about this, he's amazed every time that they aren't. That they just keep taking notes. Oh, okay, cool. What? Did you hear what I just said? Anyway. So that's what I want to say. That maybe I'm sorry, maybe I'm not. Maybe I was mean or maybe I wasn't. Only thing I know for sure is that you're a dumbass brain, I'm a dumbass brain, Tyler's a dumbass brain, Jamal's a dumbass brain. Oh, Junior's a dumbass brain, bro. Oh yeah, bro. And the sooner we accept that, the better, bro. Wait, we're recording. We can use this as the background, and then this way you can still look at the sunset. If you turn around.
Okay.
You turn around. I'm going to fix your collar before you turn around because you're not turning around. There you go. Your collar's fixed. So if you turn around.
Face us.
Awesome. Record us.
Okay.
That's perfect. Excellent. Great. Okay, so we're here at Sunset Cliffs. Good. What's your name?
My name's Tyler.
Oh, I think it might be recording. Is it? Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's
Awesome.
good.
Thanks, Vinay. Okay, Tyler. And so where are you at?
So I'm a first-year grad student at the University of Florida.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And what's your research at?
My research is mostly in motor control and neuromuscular physiology.
Okay.
So, some of the things I study include movement disorders and fatigue, looking at how the nervous system communicates with our muscles to produce force and movement.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good explanation, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Are you a brain?
I'm sorry?
Are you a brain?
Am I more than a brain or just a brain?
Is
that what you're
I don't
asking?
love the word just, but we can put it that way. Are you just a brain?
I think I am something more than a brain, but I include a brain.
You include a brain?
Yeah.
Tell me something else you include.
I believe I include a soul.
You include a soul?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between the soul and the brain?
Well, I believe a soul is not discussing my research, what can be seen, using scientific, methods. A soul is something that is beyond the physical, and it is representative, right, of things that are not physical.
Give me something.
Well, it's a symbol.
It's a symbol of what?
A soul is a symbol of the things that we can't really study.
Like what?
Mostly emotional experiences.
Have you
Right.
you know about the amygdala, though?
Roughly.
Okay. What can you tell me about the amygdala?
I think it has to do with fear.
Yeah. Fear, anger, sure.
Mm-hmm.
What about the limbic system in general? Would other emotions like are those emotional systems?
I think so, but I
Okay.
don't research the limbic
Right.
system.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, very good. Okay.
Yeah. But what I mean to say is that the brain to me is purely physical. It's the circuits and
Sure.
the neurons and things
Sure.
like that, things that are tangible. To me, a soul is representative of a symbol, of
Thank you.
the moral side of humanity.
Okay. So, like, for instance, though, speaking of morality, there's been
Hmm.
experimentation done with comparing the activity of the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex given the dilemma, for instance,
Hmm.
and how people who have damage to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex will respond differently in different
Mm.
conditions than people who who don't have damage there, who are able to use the ventromedial, by the way, which involves emotional decision making.
Hmm.
Okay. So who's talking? Who am I talking? What am I talking to right now? A soul? A brain?
You might be talking to a brain, but to me,
Talking to a brain.
we're
And
people.
it's the brain saying me? Like this self-referential pronoun. Is it the brain producing that, sending that out? So so it sounds like I'm talking to a brain that's talking about itself, but keeps mentioning a soul being a symbol of something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's
We agree on that assessment?
I can't say that I agree because
Okay.
I don't fully understand it.
Yeah, I
But
kind of. Okay, okay,
mhm.
very good, very good. Okay, I think that that is my question. Would you consider that you might be a physical? I mean, just like
Purely physical.
we'll end the interview,
Yeah, yeah.
but just as a takeaway,
Hmm.
could you consider that you might be a physical animal, a whole bunch of cells,
Hmm.
and just that created a system so complicated
Hmm.
that it was able to think of things like
Symbols.
soul, symbols,
Hmm.
not define it or come up
Hmm.
with a reference point, but
Yeah.
come up with a reference word to refer to some unknown thing. Is that possible that maybe we're this just an animal that sort of has a really complicated cognitive system?
Yeah, I think that's possible.
It's possible. All right, cool.
Surely, surely.
And here's why it's so important to me that people see themselves as these physical brains.
Mm.
Because then they can see themselves or understand that they're fallible. They can be more humble. It's hard to understand the relevance of all the research that's been done about biases and heuristics, etc., when we think, okay, that's about the brain, but I am this immaterial soul. I'm not constrained by what evolution could have produced.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and I think I think other people would agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've done this in a number of different countries, done over 100 people,
Yeah.
maybe 5 people that were like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm a brain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
So
hard to fully understand.
it's hard to, the brain does not want to see itself as a brain.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Very
awesome.
cool.
Thank you very
Thanks
much,
very much,
Tyler, and
man.
thank you for being
Yeah.
so willing to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
Let me give you my number now, so thank you. One more thing. When we talk about free will, the classic sort of immediate response is some sort of motor command to prove that the soul is free, that free will is real. Look, I can do this, therefore free will is real, they say. Um, so it's funny to me that someone who studies how the brain produces these motor events, or maybe he doesn't study it. Maybe he doesn't look at the central nervous system. Maybe just looks at. No, what did he say? No, but regardless, even if he just looks at the efferent signals from the spinal cord, um, like motor action, behavior, like action, like fucking doing something is a material event orchestrated by the material in here. Surely you don't think that, like, surely he doesn't think that the soul is there just watching and it's the brain moving his mouth and also sending out all of these thoughts. Like, what is the role of the soul if you know if you know motor pathways? Does that make any sense?